my few times here already for the international course. Actually, I give my talks in many meetings, and it takes like only 10 minutes or 8 minutes, and I have quite a luxurious time here today, like 2 hours, because I'm going to talk about basic OCT interpretation for about an hour, and then after that I talk about the differential diagnosis for diabetic macular edema as well. So it's going to be 2 hours with you this morning. It's my pleasure and honor. I'm going to talk about the OCT first. This is my financial disclosure. And I think most of you are retinal specialists already, right? So most of you know how OCT works. OCT performs imaging by measuring the echo, time delay, and magnitude of backscatter and back reflected light. So I think there's two key wording here. It's called the time delay. So it means the light which is reflected back from the OCT machine has a little bit of delay for constructing the image. And another term here is important is magnitude of the light scatter or reflected back. I'm going to talk about it later on. The OCT machine is going to provide micron resolution of cross-sections of biological tissues. So it's not only the ocular tissue that have OCT imaging. There are some other parts of the body, some other branch of medicine that have OCT as well. It's not only eye disease or retinal disease. When we think about basic OCT, the concept of using OCT, we always think it as a comparison to ultrasound. Right? It's use the same concept of providing light or sound into the tissue, and then light or sound scattered back, and then we detect the sound or the light which is scattered back, reflected back. But however, there are some differences between the ultrasound and OCT. The main difference, the number one is speed. Because if you're using light, the light is kind of millions times faster than the sound, right? That's one key difference. And when you're using the light, you require ultra fast time resolution as well. And the number two difference is the ability to do the non-contact measurement. Right? When you do the ultrasound, you have to put the probe. You have to touch the eye, right? To do the ultrasound. But for OCT machine, the patient don't have to touch the instrument. You can do a non-contact. And when you're using light for the OCT machine, you have higher spatial resolution, and you have deeper penetration if you compare to using the light ultrasound. And you're going to get a higher light scattering and absorption in almost biological tissues when you're using light compared to using sound. Here's a diagram. Here's the ultrasound, right? You have to put the probe on the cornea or on the eyelid if you let the patient close their eyelids, and then the light reflected back, and you detect it at the same probe. Here's the OCT. You just shine the light, incident light, into the eyes. When the light passes through various structures of the eyes, like anterior surface of the cornea or posterior surface of the cornea, there's a little bit of time delay, right? Because it's scattered back differently when it passes different tissue, different structures of the eye. So it produces different time delay of the reflected light. It's not only the time, the magnitude that I mentioned to you earlier. The magnitude is kind of different as well. So just like this is kind of A scan, right? It's like the A scan that you got from the ultrasound, but this is A scan that you got from the light, from the OCT, and you use all these A scans to sum up to be the two-dimension B scan. It's like B scan OCT that I'm going to talk about later on. And this, we're going to have like a kind of detector to detect all this reflected light. So in terms of basic instrumentation for the OCT machine, the light is introduced to the eye, but it's not as easy as the last slide that I showed you. Actually, you have a kind of splitter to split the light. Half of the light entering the eye, but half of the light was sent to the reference mirror. And the difference between the two beams, I mean the beam which is getting into the eye and the beam that get into the reference mirror, is going to be measured by the spectrometer. And then it's going to yield the depth and the opacity measurements. As I mentioned to you, the depth is kind of different in terms of time delay, and the opacity measurement is different in magnitude, which are translated into an image by interpretation. We use a kind of computer to compute and construct the image as well. Here is the cartoon, which is make it a little bit more complicated than the first cartoon that I showed you. Right? Here you have the light source getting to the eye, but before getting to the eye, you have a beam splitter, as I mentioned earlier. The job of the beam splitter is to divide the light. Half of them is going to get into the reference mirror, and half of them is going to get into the eye, and then it's going to reflect it back. And this is refractive measurement beam. It depends on which structure in the eye that the light gets through and reflected back. And then you have the light to the reference mirror also, get back. And this one and this one will be combined and make difference, and then detect by the spectrometer here. I'm going to make it a little bit more complicated with the next image. Instead of that cartoon, well, this is the real machine. This is not the real machine, but it's more complicated. The light that you use is kind of super luminescent diode laser. This kind of laser is going to pass through the eye. It's not only the diode laser that we use in the machine, we use the LED emitting laser as well. This is the OCT machine. We have these two kinds of laser. And then the laser, which is the light, is SLD light. So we get through the beam splitter. This is the beam splitter. It's going to split 50% of the light to the reference mirror, and then 50% of the light into the eye. This is just a probe module. This is for detail of image measurement. And then the light is going to get back, and then it's going to get back to this photosensitive detector. And then it's going to be detected by the computer, and the computer is going to calculate all the images that reconstruct to be the OCT image that we see every day in our clinic. Right? So this is the basic instrumentation of the OCT machine. 10 years ago, it's more than 10 years ago, the standard OCT that we used back like 10 years ago is what we call it time domain OCT. When you have time domain, as I mentioned earlier to you, that we measure the time delay. So it depends on the image which is constructed by the reference mirror, which is its position, and the delay, which is mechanically detected and acquired an axial scan, which is A scan, or is the measurement of the light echoes versus the depth. Right? This is a kind of magnitude, and this is the kind of time delay. And normally, typically, the ophthalmic OCT system, they typically acquire like 400 axial scans per second, and using time domain detection. At the time that we use the time domain OCT, this kind of 400 axial scan is fast already to have quite a nice image for monitoring disease or for diagnosis of disease. But later on, we have the system which have a higher scans than this. And to create the standard two-dimension cross-sectional OCT image, the beam is scanned in the transverse direction, and the data is going to be displayed as a false color or grayscale image. In the next term that we should know about the basic interpretation of OCT, is what we call image resolution. You know about the resolution? You know about resolution, right? When we measure visual acuity, we use a logMAR scale, right? LogMAR means minimal angle resolution. But that's the resolution of the visual angles, right? When you see an E in E chart, that line of the E that's the ability of the eye that can detect the big or the small one of the line. But it's the same thing for image resolution in OCT with this equation. This is the equation for axial resolution. But I think, well, it looks complicated, but I think it's easier for you to understand because, well, the delta Z, which is resolution, equals 0.44 times lambda square, where lambda is the wavelength that we use. So in terms of OCT machine, we use diode laser, right, which is like 800, more than 800 nanometers. And the delta lambda here, which is in the previous slide I told you, is inversely proportional to the bandwidth, right? The delta lambda here is the wavelength range of the bandwidth, which I'm going to tell you later on. I mean, if you use a kind of OCT machine, which is spectral domain OCT, the bandwidth here is wider than the time domain, which is why the resolution is better. I'm going to show you in the next slide here. Yeah. So if you have the bandwidth or the wavelength range, which is higher, so this is the kind that we got from the ultra high resolution OCT. But normally this is for the time domain OCT, we got it like 20 nanometer bandwidth. When you get the 20 nanometer bandwidth, it's inversely proportional to the depth resolution rate or the image resolution. So you have resolution which is about 10 microns. But if you use the bandwidth which is wider, so this is spectral domain OCT, you do not get the resolution which is better. The resolution is smaller, but you get a better quality of image, right? But if you use the ultra high resolution OCT, the bandwidth is like 100 nanometer, and you get the resolution of 2 to 3 micron, which is much higher than the spectral domain OCT as well. So this is time domain OCT. The axial resolution is about 10 microns. This is spectral domain OCT, 5 to 7 microns resolution, and for the ultra high resolution OCT is like 2 microns. This is an example. The standard switch's time domain has an axial resolution of about 10 microns, I showed you earlier. The ultra high resolution OCT system, they use the broadband femtosecond laser, and as I showed you earlier on, you can have an axial image resolution of 2 or 3 micron. This is higher than the SD OCT that we normally use today. How about the transverse resolution? It's not as important as the axial resolution. It just means the size of the focus light being incident on the retina. That's it. So, but anyway, there's a kind of trade-off between the spot size on the retina and the depth of focus. So, in most commercial available OCT system, it uses 20 micron transverse resolution. In this kind of transverse resolution, it doesn't suffer depth of focus loss quite much. And the smallest focus that can be achieved in the OCT machine due to the aberration in the eye is about 10 to 15 micron. So this is the transverse resolution that we're gonna get from the OCT machine is 20 micron transverse resolution. But it doesn't involve in our image interpretation or the quality of image. Now we're going to come to the spectral domain OCT, which is the standard that we use today. most of the machine that we use in the clinic is spectral domain. What's the difference between time domain and spectral domain exactly? What's the difference? So, anybody know the answer? I think the answer is on the slide already. Yeah. The number one is speed, right? It's the speed. It's the speed of the scan. And I mentioned to you already, the time domain produce a scan like 400 A scans per second, right? But the spectral domain OCT have many times, like 1,000 times, I mean, higher speed than the time domain OCT. It had like a 20,000 to like 40,000 scans per second. So, I mean, the advantage of having very high speed scan is that it doesn't affect with the patient's movement or blink. Doesn't like the time domain OCT. But when you have the strip of the time domain OCT, you always sometimes quite often that you see the wavy line, right? That's occurred by the patient's movement. It doesn't have that very often in the spectral domain OCT. And in terms of resolution, this is the second difference between the time domain and spectral domain OCT. And the spectral domain OCT have more than 60 times higher resolution than the time domain. I showed it to you already, right? Because of the bandwidth is higher than we use in the time domain OCT. So the resolution is smaller, and you get a higher resolution of the image. And the third difference between the time domain OCT and the spectral domain OCT is how we compute the image. We compute the image in spectral domain OCT using this equation we call it Fourier equation. So basically, when you capture retinal tissue with spectral domain OCT, you can have in your scans of this size 6 millimeter times 6 millimeter and times 2 millimeters area of the retina. But however, all the scans have to be computed with this special equation because you have like 40,000 scans per second, right? That's too much for the time domain equation to do the computation, to use the Fourier equation. So sometimes, I mean, it's been called Fourier domain OCT. It's the same thing. You have the Fourier equation to calculate it. I think that's the three main difference between time domain OCT and the spectral domain OCT. At this point, do you have any questions? Any questions on that? That's the basic concept of the OCT machine. If not, I'm going to move on to the basic OCT interpretation. I'm not going to talk about disease here. I'm going to talk about how the image is constructed. Why some layer of the retina has like a higher reflectivity and some bands has kind of weak reflectivity of the retina. So basically, we have the OCT image, which is kind of like a layers of the retina, right? And we have some layers, which is weakly reflected image. For example, the cellular layer of the retina, we have weakly reflected image on OCT. But for the fiber or fibrous tissue, fibrous layer or fiber layer, it's going to have higher reflective image. And for in the retina, we have like neurons and the synapse between the neurons, right? The boundary between at the synapse point, that boundary, you have higher reflective image on the OCT as well. So this is the basic reflective image that you can interpret on the OCT strip. Here, this is the standard nomenclature of the OCT strip. I'm gonna tell you one by one here. The first one here, number one, is posterior cortical vitreous, which is a very thin line here. And the number 2 here is, we call it pre-retinal space. And here's what I mentioned earlier as a highly reflective image. You have a kind of small opaque color or more opacity compared to the other area, right? In this image, the vitreous is black, right? But the tissue that have higher reflectivity is kind of white, and some tissue is more white than the other. This is kind of highly reflective image, this band here. And this band here is weaker. It's what we call weakly reflective image, right? So this kind of fiber layer here, the number 3, nerve fiber layer is highly reflective. But for the cellular layer, it's not as highly reflective. It's weakly reflective. In fact, for all the cellular layer, this is the ganglion cell layer, and the number 5 here is plexiform layer. This is also a fiber layer, right? As for the fiber layer, it's highly reflective compared to the nuclear layer. This is white, this is black, and this is a little bit of gray here. And another in the nuclear layer, which is a cellular layer, is more black. It's weakly reflective, right? And then another one is outer plexiform layer. It's more reflective than the nuclear layer here. And the one here, number 8, is very, very special because it contains 2 layers here. 8.1 is outer nuclear layer, which is, this is the nucleus of the photoreceptor, right, in this layer. And 8.2 is helifiber layer. This is very special. I'm going to tell you later on in detail why this layer, layer number 8, contains 8.1 and 8.2. Actually, helifibrous layer is around here at the macula, and it blends with the outer nuclear layer at the periphery of the macula. That's number 8. Number 9, where it is, I couldn't find it. Oh, here. Here is external limiting membrane. Here. Actually, it's a junction between the nucleus of the photoreceptor and the inner segment of the photoreceptor. Right? The inner segment of the photoreceptor is my orange zone here. And number 11 is ellipsoid zone, which is the OSIS junction, right? The inner segment and outer segment junction of the photoreceptor. Number 11. Number 12, outer segment of photoreceptor is layer here. When the cellular layer is always really reflective. And here, number 13 is interdigitation zone. Actually, is interdigitation between RPE and photoreceptor. That's number 13. And number 14 is RPE and Brooks membrane. And 15, choroidal capillaries. Actually, this image, you can visualize all the retinal layers, including the choroidal layer as well. Number 16 here is Saddle's layer, which is thinner diameters of the choroidal vessels. And the Alice layer is the choroidal vessel, which has larger diameter. It's a large choroidal vessel here. I think, oh, here, another landmark here, number 18, choroid scleral junction. You can see it nicely with the EDI OCT. I'm going to show you later on. So here's the, actually with an OCT strip, the 2-dimensional cross-section scan with OCT, you can have this kind of 18 landmarks for interpretation in each one. But you cannot integrate all these 18 layers, 18 landmarks within one. Sometimes some strips, you probably miss some. It depends on the light which shines through the retinal tissue. It can be varied a little bit. Here, if you correspond that all those layers with the cell and the structures of the retina. Here, well, up here is area, right? Internal limiting membrane. Here, and nerve fiber layers is very highly reflective. Actually, it's the nerve fiber of the ganglion cell, right? Here, the next to that is the ganglion cell layer, which is nucleus of the ganglion cells. The red color here, ganglion cells. the inner plexiform layer actually is a fiber layer, right? But however, the fiber in the plexiform layer is kind of lies, perpendicular to the light. The light from the OCT machine comes this way, right? And the nerve fiber from the ganglion cells lies perpendicular to the light, and the fiber in the plexiform layer that's the same thing. It lies, perpendicular to the light here, because the fiber here is a synapse between the ganglion cells, and the yellow color here is bipolar neurons. The inner nuclear layer here contains nucleus of bipolar cells and macron cells and molar cell as well. Here lies inner nuclear layer, and then next to that is the outer plexiform layer. Basically, it's a fiber from the photoreceptor itself. Here, outer nuclear layer actually is the nucleus of the photoreceptor, right? And then the external limiting membrane is a junction between the photoreceptor nucleus and the inner segment, right? And here is inner segment. Actually, this is in more detail. Normally, you probably couldn't see this that wide here. And the next one is the epiphyseal zone, which is in an outer segment junction. Here, this band. This band is the band which you can see quite prominently in the OCT scan. And we normally, in clinical interpretation, we always use this to interpret the integrity of the photoreceptor, right? If this OS-IS junction is kind of lost at the fovea or macular area, we're going to assume that the patient may not see well because the other, the photoreceptor say may have been damaged. And here this lies outer segment of the photoreceptor, and then here's this RPE, right? So in this picture, we try to correlate between the layers that we get from OCT machine and the real cellular structure of the retina to give you an idea how it's related. Right. So I'm going to sum up here. So for the cellular layer, which is kind of weakly reflective in the OCT image, right? It's kind of darker, the OCT image. It contains ganglion cells, and the inner nuclear layer and the outer nuclear layers. They are weakly reflective, as I mentioned earlier. Actually, the outer nuclear layer, when you see from the OCT strip, is wider than it should be in reality, because, as I mentioned to you earlier, the Henle fibrous layer blend into the outer nuclear layer. So the low reflectivity of the outer nuclear layer actually contains some fiber of the Henle fibrous layer as well. You understand that, right? So here, you can, just take a look here. Actually, here's Henle fiber. Right? Actually, it's the fiber which is go this way, right? So it's kind of lean forward and towards here a little bit, like oblique here a little bit, and it's going to blend with the outer nuclear layer. So that's why the fiber of the Henle layer is not highly reflective. Understand what I mean? Because normally the fiber, they're highly reflective, but the way it's oriented here causes it to be low reflective. However, I'm going to show you later on, the Henle fibrous layer can be highly reflective as well if you tilt the eye. And for fiber layer, the nerve fiber and the inner plexiform layer run parallel to the retinal surface and perpendicular to the OCT measurement beam, as I mentioned to you earlier. So it's resulting in the most highly reflective layer. OCT strip. The outer plexiform layer, as I told you earlier, was not highly reflective because the nerve fiber of the helifibrous layer, which is tilted forward and towards the peripheral macula, and the OCT beam enters at a significant angle to the fibrous orientation. That's why it's not highly reflective. And then the helifibrous layers stand indistinguishable with the weakly reflective outer nuclear layer. Here's I'm going to show you in detail. I mean, here's at the macula, right? So this is, in this picture, the vitreous is white, so it's a kind of a reverse with the image that we normally see. Here's the helifiber. Actually, if you take a look at here's the outer plexiform layer. It's quite thin in the macula because part of it is helix fiber, which is run this way, right? And it's getting a little bit, wider at the peripheral macula and outer of the macula. Yeah. But when you tilt the eye, right? When you tilt the eye, in this figure B, the beam of the OCT run this way, right? It's perpendicular to it's not perpendicular, it's kind of obliquely, touch the helifibrous layer here. But when you tilt the eye, when you tilt this way, the helifibrous layer is kind of perpendicular to the OCT light here, right? So that's why it becomes thicker here, right, compared to this figure, right? Because the way is oriented. And here as well, at the temporal macula, when you tilt the eye, you can see the outer plexiform layer is kind of wider, even at the macula area, because it depends on how it's been oriented according to the OCT light. And that's the normal eye when you tilt. But in the diseased eye, well, you got the same thing. When you have retinal detachment, the macula has been tilted a little bit. This way you see the outer plexiform layer is kind of wider than normal, because it's not. It's perpendicular to the OCT light. And when you got this pathology as well, when the helix layer is distorted, it can become highly defective. That's the cellular layer and the fiber layer. Right? Now the third layer that I'm going to tell you is the kind of, we call the boundary surface, which is also the highly reflective as well. Right? It's highly reflective as well for the boundary of cells at the OCT and the retina for the OCT image. I think this is quite interesting because at the photoreceptor area, you can have like three highly reflective lines. You can have, number one, you can have the ALM, right? Which is the the junction between the nucleus of the photoreceptor and the inner segment, right? And then you have this epiphyseal zone, which is the OSA junction, and then you have the cone of the segment. Basically, you have three highly reflective lines of the photoreceptor cell. And for the RPE, you can have like two highly reflective lines on the OCT cell as well, because basically the apex of the RPE is a boundary between photoreceptor and RPE cell, right? And the base of the RPE is the boundary between the RPE and Brooks membrane. So basically, you can have like two highly reflective layers for the RPE as well. But actually, if you don't use the ultra high resolution OCT, you're not gonna get the two highly reflective lines of the RPE. You're gonna get only one line. Here's the summation of the different reflective bands on the OCT. Here for the fiber layer, which is highly reflective, you have the outer plexiform layer, which is included for the helifibrous layer, and the I cannot read it, but actually it's the
Sinners.
yeah, okay, yeah, it's sinus layer. Sorry, my eyesight is not very good. The next one is interplexiform layer, and the next one here is the retinal nerve fiber layer. This is all summed up as the highly refractive layers of the OCT strip. And then you have the cellular layer, which is weakly refractive, outer nuclear layer, inner nuclear layer, ganglion cell layer. And you have the boundary surface, which is located around here at the photoreceptor areas. You have external membrane and the OSIS junction, epiphyseal zone, and you have the quad outer segment, and you can have the retinal pigment epithelium here as well. Do you wonder why the RPE, actually RPE is cell, right? Actually, basically it's the cellular. It should be a cellular layer. It should be weakly refractive, right? Why is highly refractive? You think it's because of the melanin? I think it's because probably it's melanin pigment which causes highly refractive of the RPE cell. And actually, as I mentioned to you earlier, if you use non-ultra high resolution OCT, even the SD OCT that you commonly use today, you probably cannot visualize the RPE as a too highly refractive layers. This is the summation of what I told you already. I'm going to cause you more headache. Now we're going to move to the next big thing for the OCT. We call it the enhanced depth, or EDI OCT. Basically, if you perform the OCT scan for the retinal tissues, the signal intensity usually attenuates in the depth direction. I mean, if the tissue is farther away from the OCT machine, the image quality is fading, right? This is the basic concept. However, if you want to avoid this, especially if you want to avoid the signal attenuation in the retinal tissues, you have to set the reference surface. And normally, if you visualize retinal tissue, the reference surface that you set is at the vitreous side. That way, you're going to have a high quality image of the retina. However, if you want to visualize the choroid, in fact, if you want to visualize the choroid, the signal intensity is going to be attenuated, right? Because you set the reference, the reference sign at the vitreous. You're not going to have the signal intensity very good at the choroid. So how are you going to visualize choroid without signal intensity loss? I think Rich Fed is he's the first one who described this, and he's very smart. So when you move the OCT closer to the patient's eye, when you move the objective light closer to the patient's eye, you're gonna got the inverted mirror image. Once you got the mirror inverted image, it means the choroid is gonna be close to the image. The choroid is going to be close to the OCT machine, and with that, you can set the reference point, the reference plane, at the choroid cell, and the choroid is going to be visualized clearer than normally performed. So this is the basic concept of the enhanced depth imaging OCT. This is what we got, the inverted mirror image. When you move the OCT machine, the probe of the OCT, which shine the light into the patient's eye, closer to the patient. Now you can perform this with the machine. The machine is set adjust itself when you select the enhanced depth mode, and you're gonna get this. When you get this, it means the reference plane is here, right here at the choroid. So you're gonna visualize the choroid quite nicely, clearer image. However, in your machine, you use software to invert this back to what you normally see, right? And that way, you're gonna be able to see here. Here, it's what we call enhanced depth OCT, you have this kind of inverted mirror image here. And it's not only the boundary of the choroid or sclera that you can see, that you can visualize more clearly. You can visualize the lamina tubosa quite nicely as well compared to the conventional image here at the bottom. For visualize the choroid, you can use the enhanced depth image, or if not, you can use this new hardware. For enhanced depth imaging, you just use the SD-OCT to do that. But for this new machine, the swab source machine, you need a new hardware because the light source is different. This is the SD-OCT use a light source which is contains the SLD, as I mentioned to you earlier, is super luminescent diode laser around 850 nanometers. But the SS or swab source OCT is used like more than 100 nanometers of wavelength to shine to the eye. So with this kind of longer wavelength, there's little signal intensity attenuation in the depth direction, and the image of both vitreous and choroids are clear with this swab source OCT. And for the EDI OCT, well, when you have the kind of inverted mirror image, if you want to have a high quality, you need to do the average rescan. You have to avoid the signal, spectral noise as well. But you don't need that in the swab source OCT, and you can create the three-dimensional choroidal maps with the swab source OCT quite nicely. Here's comparison between the time domain OCT. This is spectral domain OCT, and it's probably the enhanced depth as well. But this is swab source OCT. When you use longer wavelength, you can visualize the whole thing, the vitreous, retinal, and even choroid quite nicely with the swab source OCT. But you have to invest, and you have to buy a new machine, a new swab source. You cannot use that you cannot use the spectral domain OCT that you have for that. Here's a comparison between the SD-OCT. The light source is different, the wavelength is different, and the A-scan rate. Well, when you have this kind of longer wavelength, you don't need a higher A-scan rate for the scanning. In terms of resolution, the resolution for the SD-OCT and the swab source OCT is not much different. You have the same kind of quality of resolution, but you can visualize choroid better with the swab source OCT. That's about it. The image depth is about the same. I'm going to spend I have 15 minutes left. I'm going to spend the rest of my talk about some artifacts that you're going to face for the conventional OCT images that you normally have during your clinical practice. This is kind of common artifacts that you're going to encounter, kind of shadows, you probably have excessive penetration of the light beam cell. It's going to cause falsely high reflectivity or low reflectivity from retinal tilting, or some kind of virtual images overlapping the real images, and decreased sensitivity for refocusing. I'm going to discuss each of that. Here's the shadows caused by the beam block. Here's what you normally see, right? What is this? What are these? They are retinal vessels, right? Yeah. They are retinal vessels. They are retinal arterioles here. They are over here, right? So the OCT beam is blocked by all these vessels. So that's why it's cast shadow over here. This is not a loss of RPE or episode or something. It's just a shadow cast by the vessel. This is an example of shadows which is caused by the block. This is physiology. You got this in every normal eye. How about pathology? Here is the pathology that you're gonna get the B block as well. The shadow from this is what it is. This is pre-renal hemorrhage. Yeah, I mean pre-renal hemorrhage, right? This is pre-renal hemorrhage. You can detect quite nicely with the OCT here, and it's caused lots of block here in this wide area. And the lower image is also a block, a shadow cast by the exudation of the retina. Right? This is two typical blocks that cast shadow on the lower strip of the OCT from the pathology that you commonly see. Here's the when you get excessive penetration of the light, you can have high reflectivity. Here's high reflectivity from the geographic atrophy. Here, when you lost the RPE and photoreceptor, here, you lost all that. And the band here, and the intraocular capillaries here, and the saddle slab of the corona, you can visualize, I mean, more sharper. It's more highly reflective because you lost all this tissue, and the OCT light can penetrate more and cause higher reflectivity. This is geographic atrophy. You have higher than normal reflectivity, and you have kind of lower reflectivity as well when you tilt the retina. As I mentioned to you earlier, I mean, well, the Henle fibrous layer can be more visualized, more with higher reflective when you tilt the retina. And when you have this kind of pathology, I mean, some layers of the retina can have the low reflectivity as well. The battery is gone now. Sorry. And you can have like a virtual image, which is artifact, overlapping the retinal image. Sorry, thank you. I have to get a little closer. I'm old now. Yes, well, this is all kind of artifacts that you can, well, yeah, that you can face. I mean, because of in the figure A, you have kind of acial halosis, right? When you have this kind of acial halosis, you probably have like a reflection from the calcium itself. It can cause like multiple dots within the vitreous, and it's going to interfere with the interpretation a little bit. Yeah, and you can have a kind of decreased sensitivity from defocusing as well. Well, on the picture above, you have really well focused, right? I guess that's a sweat source OCT, right? When you have this kind of, when you see an OCT strip, you can visualize optic disc and the choroid quite nicely. It should be from sweat source OCT. But if you didn't focus as well, if you defocus, the sensitivity from the OCT is going to decrease. Thank you. Okay, great. And you're not gonna get the sharper image. The sensitivity is going to be lost from defocusing. I think that's about it for the best interpretation of OCT. I'm going to touch a little bit on OCT. I think there should be some speakers, right, talk about OCT. So I'm not going to bore you with this. It's just I mean, it's kind of new machine which is reconstruct the image. You can visualize the moving of the red cells and reconstruct the kind of like an angiogram image without using the dye. It's a basic concept of the OCT. I recommend you to read this. This is very good. This OCT analyzed by a Japanese doctor. It's very good. And this atlas is very good. It's not only an atlas, but in fact it contains more than 300 OCT images. I think it's the best so far that you can read. And lastly, I may invite you to the 10th Asia Pacific Retinal Society Congress. Any of you registered already? We have like more than 100 international renowned speakers in this meeting. And the topic is very, very interesting. Topics are very interesting. You can Google APVRS 2016, and you're going to see we have like more than 20 symposiums, and all the famous doctors. So there, Dr. Chiu, Jerry and Carol Chiu have like 5 symposiums on ocular tumor there. And we have Neil Bressler, Alexander Brooker, and Sue Wong from SRS, and someone going from France, and a lot. And Adrian's going to be there. Adrian Lindo, watching many world-renowned speakers going to be there. And the advanced registration is going to end within a few days, November 30th, but there's still a chance for you to register. So please come, enjoy Bangkok as well, and enjoy the meeting. That's about it. Okay, I'm going to take questions here. Thanks very much for your attention.
Xin hỏi ông cái về phân giải nó có một khái niệm rồi phân giải là điện tử để đáp ứng
Thank you. Can you ask them? What the what do you mean by electronic resolution? You mean axial resolution or the transverse resolution?
axial resolution.
Yeah, what was your question about it? What does it mean, or what does it mean when?
Trong cái độ phân giải trục thì đã có cái khái niệm ông vừa nói, nhưng trong đó là nó có một cái khái niệm là resolution.
I'm sorry, if something you can share with me. He asked about electronic resolution. If some of you in the audience can share with me about the electronic resolution. What do you mean by electronic resolution? What do you mean by that?
Trên Capro một số mình thấy cái thông số đó.
Wow. I'm not sure. I mean, well, if you look at things in the brochure, here when I talk to you is scientific. But sometimes I'm not sure. If you, see something in the brochure, I'm not sure if it's a real scientific wording or it's just some kind of word which is setting up. But the important thing that you should know about the OCT is the axial resolution and the transverse resolution. And if you want to buy an OCT machine, the axial resolution is the property that you should take a look at. You need the resolution, axial resolution, which is smaller, like 2 or 3 microns, give you better quality of image compared to like a 10 micron axial resolution that you found from the time domain OCT. Yeah.
I think talking about electronic resolutions is about DPI, dot per inch, which is how many dots per inch that a machine can interpret. And it's basically using for electronic and computer and for printer. But in OCT technology, we don't use that kind of electronic resolution. We use, for example, 2 microns. It means that if the 2 points is at 2 microns apart, then the machine can recognize it. So if it's less than 2 microns, the machine cannot recognize it. That's a little bit different in those 2 resolutions.
Thank you. Thank you for helping me. Thank you. What? I have to remove one. Okay, okay. Any more questions? It's okay, just ask. If I don't know, just tell I don't know. And we can help each other. It's okay. But this, this is kind of basic. I think it's going to be more fun in the next part. I'm going to show you some interesting cases. Okay, thank you. Great.
So I'd like to ask...
One more question, sorry.
I'd like to ask whether when you see the C-star macula edema, you usually see those C-star in the alpha-plexiform layer. And why is that?
I think the alpha-plexiform layer is the layer which contains fiber, right? And normally, when you see C-star macula edema, it's at the macula, which is at the heavily fibrous layer, right? So basically, the heavily fibrous layer is why it's oriented. That's the way it's oriented. So I think the fluid tends to be between the fiber. That's why you normally see that. Yep. Okay, I can move on, and there will be a lot of cases.